Do I need more light?
Yeah, if you can. Okay, we're live. To welcome everybody to Mindset Monday. Today I have the most very interesting person. Now, he didn't send me a bio, so fortunately I have known him since I was, since I was about 11, I guess, is when we first ended up at his school. And he has a very interesting story to tell. He's got the positive growth mindset, and happy International Women's Day today. Not only that, but Asif has a dream. He doesn't have any women in his life that aren't strong women, basically. So we're going to talk about...
They're all very strong women.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to celebrate International Women's Day with a man who attracts strong women, which is a very strong indication that he is a good man.
Oh, thank you. I thought you were going to say a weak man.
No, the other way around. So see you after the break with Asif Bokhari. You're going to have to tell me how to pronounce your name.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us here 24 hours and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio. Relax Radio.
Welcome back to Mindset Monday with my amazing guest, Asif. I'm going to do my best guess, and he's going to correct me. Asif Bokhari de Bustamante, and you can see a picture. Thank you. You can see a picture with him there, with one of his endeavors, which is under Bustamante Productions, but he's in Sweden, not Spain, and his family's journey of how he got to Spain is fascinating. He's going to regale us with all that. Happy International Women's Day. Welcome, Asif, to the show. And so I don't have a bio. You didn't send me a bio. I just realized shortly ago. So I'm going to introduce you the way I know you. And Asif is, he's we went to the same school, but we weren't friends at school because I was younger. I was a Litly when he was an older student. I did admire him because he did a very fine role. Well, he did a very fine role in Fiddler on the Roof. So,
really?
Yeah.
So I did get an admire after all.
You did. All four of the Bokhari children were in the production. Yeah. And that's how I kind of got to know you by watching, observing. And at the time, I was a big admirer. I have to say, this little child was a big admirer of Asif. Yes, Yusuf, and yes, your sisters. But I particularly thought you were quite special. And
cool.
Dude, that's how it is. Yeah. So then years passed after I left school and nothing. Of course, then Facebook came and we became Facebook friends, and we've been communicating. We ended up being on opposite ends of the bridge. If anyone's heard of the bridge that joins Copenhagen and Malmö in Sweden, we were both living on opposite ends of that for years, 10 years, never met. And then finally, but we were friends on Facebook, and through that friendship on Facebook, he's got a great sense of humor. He's very respectful, as in your posts are always uplifting and
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Mm-hmm. And just we just had lots of conversations over the years, and I got to admire you for your substance, and the business that you created in Sweden had me drooling, and also, and then finally we actually met up in Cape Town,
South Africa.
Of course, in South Africa. Instead of walking across the bridge, we ended up meeting up in Cape Town, South Africa, in the shadow of Table Mountain. So Yusuf has I don't even know what you did before Bustamante Productions, so you'll have to please tell us about that. But what I know you as a successful entrepreneur, a great, I'm just going to put that picture up again, a great paella maker, importing wonderful food from Spain and other countries, healthy food, high quality food. Oh, there we go. We'll start with that. We'll just move your head so that we can see you.
There.
There you go. And well, no, actually, I'm being. That's what I know so far. But can we go back? Can you? Well, first of all, introduce yourself, and then can we tell us about your fascinating family's history?
Just some bio, and I'm sure Caroline is going to pick up on some of these things. I mean, we know, as she said, we know each other for quite a while, so there might be some things that seem obvious. But I'm 63, married. I've got 3 children, all grown up. I've recently, a couple of years ago, became a grandfather. So I've got a granddaughter as well. So I've got all the types of women that you can think of in my surrounding. I've got mothers, grandmothers, daughters, sisters, and granddaughters. But I met Monica, who's Swedish. We actually met in Spain because her sister was married to a Spaniard, and we happened to be out, as you did at that time, Friday night in the disco, and I was out with the friends, and just maybe, what was I, like 22, 23, something like that. And I saw this woman standing there, and immediately realized that she was not accompanied. So there you go.
Never go to a disco unaccompanied. Are there any young people here? That's what they call these days a club. We called it a disco.
It was a disco. No, it was a proper disco with the round mirror ball and the whole thing.
Yeah, disco ball.
Oh yes, yes. And it was in the disco era as well, because this was back in '82. So that was right slap bang in the middle of the disco era. And it was, would you like to dance? And she said no, and her sister, who was standing beside her, pushed her into the dance floor, and she said yes. So she had no choice, basically. And then after that, we just got to know each other, and then after a couple of years, decided that it was time to formalize a relationship. And then we decided we were going to get married, and Monica moved to Spain, and we lived there for 13 years. That's where all our kids are born, in Madrid. And then I got a job offer in Sweden, and that was just when Sweden came into the EU. January '95, Sweden joined the EU, and I had earlier on spoken to the owner of a company here near Malmö in Lund, and all of a sudden I had a job offer from them to come and work for them here in Sweden. And at that time, and during most of my life, and I still do, my background is in logistics and supply chain management. So that's what I've done, actually, just for Caroline. That's what I've done with myself all my life. I've worked in many companies as a logistics manager and a supply chain manager and consultant.
The success of Bustamante Productions.
Yeah, that was just that was something that happened later on, more recently.
Yeah, well, so we don't want to go to that first. Before we'll finish with Monica, and then
so we got we eventually ended up moving to Sweden. So our background is continuously being mixed. Actually, as we speak, all our family members have relationships with people from different cultures, and their children have relationships with people who are even more different cultures. And it's kind of like the tradition in our family is not to have such traditions. It's like you just go ahead and find someone you like, and that's it. You don't have to really have too much consideration for their background or their origins and stuff like that. So we are quite free thinkers in that sense, actually.
Yeah, the way the world, in my opinion, should be. It's the secret to world peace. It's in my opinion, the secret to world peace is, well, is everyone get along. Hello. So we're going to find out more about your existing business and what sounds like a very fascinating future endeavor. First, where did it all start? You have mentioned a place that got my hairs.
Well, you asked me for my background, and of course I thought a little bit, and just trying to relate it to your subject, and thinking, well, how does this all fit in?
We do.
Why does Caroline?
Don't worry, I'll find the mindset. Wherever you go, I'll find them. Don't worry about that. I'll do that. I'll go boing. There you go.
Yeah,
mindset.
and well, actually,
I'm interested in the women along the journey as well. And any time there's a woman that's been.
Well, if I start with the women that I know firsthand, my grandmothers, both of them. Well, just to put in context, my father was Pakistani. I was born in Pakistan, so my paternal grandparents are both Pakistani. Right. And there is a connection to Bukhara. That's where my name comes from, in which you would like me to develop a little bit. And my maternal grandmother was German, and paternal grandfather was Spanish. But both these women, my grandmothers, they were very, very, for their time, very determined, educated, and independent within the context of their time, we could say. But they were not sort of like the typical housewife who doesn't really know what to do otherwise in life. It was, those roles were expected at the time, but I mean, my grandmother was an interpreter. She spoke several languages, and that's why she happened to be in Paris at sometime between the First and Second World War. She spoke French and was doing whatever interpretation.
So this is your Spanish grandmother.
This is my German grandmother.
Your German grandmother.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Who ended up meeting José Bustamante, my Spanish grandfather, in Paris. He had also gone there due to circumstances of life. This was before the Civil War and Second World War. Just seeking, looking for a good life and finding something to do. And he had gone to Paris to work, and they met there, very romantic, and got married. And my maternal grandmother then moved to Spain.
So your mother is the one that's half German, half Spanish.
Yes, that's correct.
And they met in Paris.
My grandparents met in Paris.
Yeah, exactly. The grandparents met in Paris, and then they moved to Spain
Spain.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's where my grandmother then became Spanish, a German Spanish. Yeah.
You can't get born in Spain and brought up in Spain without becoming Spanish. It's just not possible.
So she the rest of her life, except for a short period, she lived in Madrid as a Spanish person. But she always worked. She spoke several languages, and I seem to remember when we were going together to school, she must have been like 70 something, I guess, 60, 70. Then she suddenly decided she was going to learn Arabic for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, she'd do that sort of stuff. Oh, now I'm going to learn Arabic. Then she would go to Arabic classes. I'm going
to stop you right there because we have to go for a break. And I know what's coming up next-ish. And I'm interested in this side of it. I'm guessing. I'm taking a wild guess at what's happened after she learns Arabic.
You'll be wrong.
What? Well, anyway, we're going to see. And what I'm going to do is, because we have to have a break every 15 minutes.
Yes.
So we're going to continue the story. So we've heard some of Asif's maternal grandparents.
Maternal side, yeah.
And then we're going to find, after the break, finish that story and find out some more about the paternal. And it is, we have a lot of Bangladeshi listeners here because it's
I'll connect there too.
Yeah. Okay, so that's why when you said that, I'm like, okay, it sounds as though they could well be, certainly from that neck of the woods. So after the break, we'll be right back with more of this fascinating story. I've got to find the jingle. Here we go. Welcome back. Whoops. Oh, hello. Well, that came up a bit before I expected it to. And welcome back with Asif Bokhari de Bustamante. Now, I've been listening out for the mindset here. So what I've heard so far is be open to being friends with people of all different cultures. And that's and not being closed in the culture that you are perhaps connected with in the past, which for you is very difficult. And then the other thing was your grandmother was a linguist, and she then and at what age did she start? I'm just putting the
she was
age had to learn Arabic.
She must have been like 70, I think, or something. But I mean, she learned languages all her life.
Well, yes, but she languages having, to me, and this is part of our culture, our culture from both of our common background, is that we are multilingual. We have many languages, and it's not just the languages from the place where we were born. It's lots of different languages. So we're open to learning languages, which makes us open to meeting different kinds of people, I believe, but then continuing to learn more languages. I believe that is a huge mindset.
Well, now that you tap into that track, actually, I mean, anybody who speaks several languages and belongs to different cultures will immediately be able to relate to this. And I actually feel a little bit sorry for monocultural people who only speak one language during their whole lives, because that for me is unthinkable. And when you're brought up speaking several languages, as you have, and I have, and many people do, then learning a new one is not a major effort. It's just like, oh, all right, well, now we're going to learn this because you happen to live there, or you happen to have some connection with that country. So in my childhood, and we can join these two tracks together, in my childhood, I've been brought up in a multicultural, multi-language family, multilingual family. In our family, we spoke 3 languages around the dinner table, and a 4th one out in the street, because at a period of time, because of my father's occupation, we lived in Turkey, went back to Pakistan, then we lived in Indonesia, then went back to Pakistan. So all these moves, just like, oh, okay, now you have to learn Turkish. It's just like, business as usual. It's no big deal. It's not like you have to go and do a course in Indonesian. You just learn it as you happen to be there, and you take it in a stride. And once your brain or your mindset is rigged to having multi-processing and different languages, adding another one does not make does not cause any trauma, or does not require a huge effort or anything. You just kind of like add it on. It's like having a computer with a Mac and Windows on it at the same time, and still manage to get it to work.
Because you just plug in, you just install a different language in a computer, whereas a human has to have the mindset that they can do it.
Yes,
and that, mind you, having said that, there are people that have a can-do attitude but still struggle to learn different languages. But as a generalization, I believe, and I have seen research where if you know at least 2 languages, you learn at least 2 languages as a child, it opens you up to the power of learning. The kind of you're not closed to not just learning languages, but learning other things.
The thinking, the mindset, what you call, yes, of course, because the mindset is very much related to what your culture is as well.
Yeah.
So each culture, even if you say, let's say that you have a positive mindset in an Asian culture will differ very much to a positive mindset in the Scandinavian culture. If you actually get down to describing them, they will be very different, although you would call them positive.
True, yes, because you've got the culture built into it. But to me, the perfect, that's a bit crazy, but the perfect growth mindset is actually, that goes back to what you were saying, that in your family, you can be friends with people from any culture, and your family's welcome. Embracing people from all different cultures, and to me that is a part and parcel of a growth culture. And yes, there might be some cultures that are more close to that, but the more we all do that, the closer we are to world peace. I haven't been mentioning world peace up till now in this program, but that's one of my things.
Yeah.
So
for some reason, I don't know if it's just by chance or if there is something genetic there or predetermined. We happen to be quite adventurous and unconventional in our way, and I don't know if it has to do with some sort of background, but my grandparents, my parents, myself, my brothers and sisters, we're all married to different types of people. None of us have stuck to our own cultural origin. If we have, it's just by pure
okay, which one cultural origin is that, Asif?
Yeah, any one of them you would choose to pick on, because myself, I have German, Spanish, Pakistani, and then my wife is Swedish and Finnish. So our children have all of those.
That's quite
and then my eldest daughter is married to a Danish English who is brought up in Sweden. So my granddaughter's got like 6, I lose count, origins if you start to make a pie chart out of the poor thing, which you shouldn't, because that's another thing I want to take up. You can't make a pie chart, but yeah, so you just can't get away from the fact that you can't be exclusive. You have to be inclusive, and you have to be accepting, because that's how your family has been several generations back. So it's not a big deal.
So tell us about this, because on my ears. I mean, I got so excited. I'm going to have to take you there now. If you haven't mentioned it yet, the Samarkand.
You asked for a journey.
Samarkand. I asked for the journey, and I want to know about Samarkand. Who came from
Actually,
Samarkand?
it's Bukhara and Samarkand were two very important hubs on the Silk Route.
Okay.
From China to the Middle East, and then onwards to Europe, right?
Yeah.
So you've got right there in the middle, you've got Bukhara and Samarkand. They were very close together and very important, both of them, for the trade.
Yeah.
On the Silk Route. So as the name indicates, Bokhari are people who come from Bukhara.
Right.
So my family were known as the Bokhari. The people who came from Bukhara were known as Bokharis.
So
that's where my name comes from.
They were logistical experts as well, then.
They were probably logistics experts. Yes. yeah. No, I think I would like to. Maybe I don't know if it's true either, but we could, for the sake of romanticism, say that maybe there's some sort of merchant tradesman gene somewhere in there that suddenly lit up in my later age, and a lot of logistician. But above all, I think you have to. I would like to relate to the fact that it's a real, both literal and a real crossroad for cultures and trade.
Right. Yes.
That's what that was, and many people of many different, people of many different origins and people of different statuses and occupations would meet there and trade whatever it was. They had silk and carpets and whatever they did. So I guess in those type of places, there is already an openness towards the traveler. You already have a certain code and norm that you always have to treat the traveler and the guest with humbleness and respect and consideration, because you never know when you are going to be in that position. You are the traveler, and then you need at some point some sort of welcoming, hospitable person who maybe helps you out in the moment. when you need it.
Well, if that's your family culture, what a fantastic family culture that
Well,
is.
I like to relate to that because I think that we are all in a way, when we are talking about being in this journey and mindset, I think that although I say it's romantic, but it does have a very practical side to it as well. It's
Yeah.
in Spanish there's a saying, "Arrieritos somos y por el camino nos encontraremos," and that means that we're all a cart, we're all driving a cart, and we'll meet on the way. So today you help me, and tomorrow I'll help you. You never know when you're going to need somebody else's help. So you have to be considerate and respectful of other people, because you never know. And I think that that's just a good rule generally to have in life.
And I'm thinking from the, as well, also from the logistical standpoint, it's a very much you've got a can-do attitude, because I don't know how to do logistics without having constant problems and having to find ways. Sorry?
Just call me. Call me.
Call me.
When you have a problem,
Call Asif.
Just call,
you have a problem, call Asif. Okay. So perhaps the person with the growth mindset is the one that you call when you have a problem.
Actually, yes, my father said, if you want to get something done, ask somebody who's busy.
Yeah.
Because that shows that you have the can-do mindset and probably going to get it done. If you ask somebody who's not doing anything, then it's probably not going to happen either. So I suppose that people who are migrating from one location to another and onwards, somewhere inside you have to have this maybe, I don't know if you want to call it courage or if you call it mindset, that okay, I'll
belief as well, isn't it?
It's a belief that you'll manage, you'll get it done, you'll manage, and what can happen. I mean, you'll sort it out.
Well, that's one of the quotes one of the things that you sent me was, you're willing to take on the task without overanalyzing it.
Yeah, I guess sometimes you just decide, okay, let's do this and let's try this out. And I've done that sometimes. In fact, I've done that often. Say, okay, now this is what I'm going to do, and maybe you don't understand the full consequences of what you're going to do. Maybe if you did understand the full consequence, you wouldn't do it. So sometimes, and very often, the outcome, if you're reasonably competent, I guess, and reasonably careful, the outcome is not going to be dramatic.
Well, and it's a constant tweaking, isn't it? It's not like you don't kind of go off at a tangent, or you can go off at a tangent, but then when you do, you're tweaking. You're not, which hand can you see? You're not going, I'm going straight that way and not veer. You actually then move around. You might actually end up fairly close to where you started, but you're still doing something different. It's being prepared to take a risk, but then also problem solving along the way. How about that?
Yes, you have to, because you're constantly going to be meeting situations that in themselves, if you take each of those situations individually, may not be so dramatic. I mean, we moved countries because of my father's occupation, but then I got a job opportunity to move to Sweden, here in Sweden, and we said, well, let's go. Let's pack our bags and go, because we thought it would be a good idea for our kids to have, who are half Swedish, to have a little bit more of the Swedish culture and education and so on. So that's what and it wasn't like, I mean, you can't think and you can't sit and analyze every single aspect before you make the decision. You say, okay, let's do that, and we'll try it out for a few years, and if something else comes up, we'll see then.
So let's go back. Let's very, very quickly find out how your family, your ancestry on your father's side? I'm not sure. They got from Bukhara or Samarkand
down to
down
where
to
it says India.
Oh, you were okay. So yeah, that's right, because you were born in Pakistan.
Lahore,
So in
yeah,
Lahore, yeah.
what is now Pakistan and
Yeah.
Lahore, yeah.
Yeah. So
That's right.
So that's a long journey. That's still a very long journey.
Oh well, it did. This is not something that happened overnight. This is something that successive. I don't know, several generations that the family originated from Bukhara, but didn't move in one trip down to Lahore or that area. But that was the origin of the family anyway. Was from Bukhara.
And where is
there?
it?
You have a very nice picture of Bukhara.
That is Bukhara.
Which is not so easy to visit, by the way, because it's in Uzbekistan and it's not a country that is really open.
I have an invitation to Uzbekistan.
Oh,
I'm
you do?
assured that I can go. I don't know. I hope so. And I want to go to some. You pronounce it differently, Samarkand, because there's some of the most amazing mathematical. I mean,
of course,
the tilings and oh my goodness, and the colors and I was.
You're highly developed cultures.
Yeah.
And of course, they had influences from many different places, and that was the benefit that they had of the exchange and interchange between different cultures, and
It's so beautiful. Okay, so your family and you moved around as a child and ended up in Spain. Which is where I met you.
So my parents also had.
Sorry, we've got to do the jingle. So we're going to find out about Asif's parents after the jingle, and then we're going to move on to what you're doing in Sweden and what you want people to know about as well, so that because I want people to know about your amazing products as well and your future plans, which sound very exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, don't run that one. That's in Bangladesh. That won't help me at all. I don't know how to. Don't speak Bangladeshi yet.
No, I don't. No.
Me either. Welcome back to the Mindset Monday show with Asif Bokhari de Bustamante, part Spanish, he's from all over, everywhere from Spain all the way across Europe, all the way to at least Uzbekistan. So tell us about. Oh yes, mother and father. Yes, you were saying.
Mother and father. Well, so my mother was born just before the Second World War, before the Spanish Civil War, in Madrid, which meant that she did have to escape the Spanish Civil War, and guess where they went? To Berlin.
I was going to say Germany, but oh my goodness! I thought
so
surely not Germany.
Yes, they did, of course, because my grandmother was from Berlin. So she thought, well, we can't be here with the Civil War going on. So she took the 3 daughters that she had at the time and left my grandfather. He couldn't go anywhere, and he stayed in Madrid during the Civil War, and she. Packed bags and went off to Berlin, and 3 or 4 years later she obviously had to do the other.
He was Spanish. Let's just review. He was Spanish. No, she was German. So she went home, basically.
She went home, basically, to Berlin.
And then she went to the Second World War.
For her, that was the safest place.
Pan into the fire.
For her, that was the safest place she could think of to go to Berlin, which of course didn't. And very soon after, she had to leave Berlin and come back to a war-torn Spain, which was in a very bad situation, and you know very well
N-
about
no
the Spanish
food,
history. Yeah, so
starvation,
yeah,
really horrible politics. Yeah.
yeah. And then, so she grew up in that. But anyhow, because of her mother's and father, my grandfather was also speaking several languages, French and Spanish and English. Um he was quite competent himself too, although he had a very humble background. But he had he had a very illustrate background, which became humble, which he then again brought up. And again, there's a mindset there that out of very much difficulty, he came to Madrid and started a new life, although he had had a lot of hardship where he was from in Zamora.
So now you and I both know that a Spaniard in the 40s or even 30s speaking any language other than Spanish was unheard of. So that says something extraordinary about your grandfather.
He spoke English and French and Spanish, of course. And that's how he and my grandmother met. So my mother was brought up in an environment of openness as well, and she spoke German. She went to the German school in Madrid when she was small, and of course the next thing was that she was sent off to, when she was like 18 or 19, she was sent off to London to go and improve her English.
Okay.
As Spanish women did at that time. No, not.
Get married.
No, but again, because of this openness and mixed cultural background, it was like, okay, this is what Gloria has to do. She should go to London and improve her English, and the connection comes.
Because of course your grandmother learned Arabic. No, that's right, because she was already married to a Spaniard.
But that was much later on.
Okay, right, that was later on.
That was when she was retired and she wanted to do something interesting.
Okay, folks, you want a positive mindset, you want a growth mindset. When you retire, learn a new language. If you've got that in your mind that you can do that, and that's part of your future,
you will find it very satisfying.
You will find that will open doors on your way. That if you know you've got that in your future, that keeps things open throughout your life. That's it. I've done my little
languages or other stuff as well.
Learning something new. My mentor says, learn something new every day. She's 80.
I read that.
But she does. She genuinely does. And you know what? She gets on the computer and she's learning something difficult. She goes, "Ooh, this is difficult."
Well, actually, that's like my mother today. That's like my mother today. She's got WhatsApp and she's got Facebook and she's quite well versed in social media and she has no problem with that at all. You could send a friend request to my mom right now and she would accept it and chat with you.
Okay, right.
And so
I'm sending you mother request.
Yes, go ahead.
After this, I'll get a number off you.
Yeah, my father, he was also one of those reactionary type of people because his father, he was the eldest son in the family, and at that time in Pakistan, that was like a big deal. You know, you did what your father told you, and that was that. And my grandfather, who had been in the army all his life. He did not want a military career for his son, my father, so he had lined him up for medical college, which my father did for 1 year, and then he ditched everything because he then followed his passion, and that was flying. He wanted to fly.
Oh wow!
His childhood heroes were Manfred von Richthofen and Eddie Rickenbacker, who were World War I aces.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, that was 1942, he was like 17 or 18. At that time, it was the first batch of in the middle of the Second World War, that the RAF was taking in natives as commissioned officers.
Okay.
So he ditched medical college and became a fighter pilot instead.
So was that in Pakistan, or he came to England?
Well, it was India at that time. At the time, that was
India. Oh, that's right. It was. Oh my goodness. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That was before.
Yeah, the whole thing.
God, yes,
so here's a little bit of history. Yeah. Here's a little bit of historical perspective. What happened then was that Great Britain was terribly busy in Europe, keeping themselves alive, and the Japanese were coming up. They had invaded Singapore, they had taken over Malaysia, and they were traveling up through Malaysia into Burma with the intent of taking over India from the British.
Right.
As the obvious thing to do, because the British had no way of defending or protecting that. They had lost everything in Southeast Asia at the time. So there was a call for the local to build up forces locally in order to protect India, which, as my father would tell it in a sort of jovial manner, he said, well, we just turned around and we said, what do you mean invaded by the Japanese? We are already invaded by you.
Yeah, good
for
point.
the last 350 something years,
Yeah.
and you haven't been so nice to us. And the Japanese, they're Asians and we're Asians, and maybe we get along very well with them. So that's all right with us. We have no problem with that.
Come on in, Japanese people.
Yeah, basically it was just a negotiation position then, to say that, okay, we of course will do this, but it's not for you to stay here as a colonizing power. When all this is over, if we are risking our lives to protect this country, it's for us. It's not for you to come back, walk back in and say, well, thank you very much for that. So he was actually he was in the RAF in Burma, stopping the Japanese invasion. So he totally he left anything that his family had prepared for him, which caused him a big problem with his father during a number of years, and ditched medical college, joined the RAF, became a fighter pilot, and then because he was doing sort of wacky things with his airplane, he got sent off to do wacky things in Burma. He said, you want to fly low and all that sort of stuff? Good for you. We're sending you off to Burma. So they did that, and then he was obviously promoted fairly quickly afterwards, after the partition, and because of his position, he was in charge of the purchasing of material for the PAF then, the Pakistan Air Force. So he was very often, and here comes the connection, he was very often in the UK, in London, because of the dependency that the Pakistan Air Force had on material from the United Kingdom, having been a previous colony. So in one of these visits, a common friend, he happened to mention to this common friend that he was going to go to Madrid and Spain, because he was so interested in visiting Spain. And she said, oh, you have to go, and here's the address of a friend of mine. And actually, this common friend, and here is another connection, was from Bangladesh, from Dhaka. She was a lady named Lulu, who my mother had been staying with, and was a family friend to my father. So when he mentioned to Lulu that I'm going to Madrid, she just, wrote out the address and said, here's somebody I know. and he basically, without Google Maps and without anything, turned up in Madrid at my mother's house and said, hello, my name is Inam and I'm here. And then they got to know each other, and it developed into a relationship. At that time, it was a long distance relationship, but then they decided they would get married, which was also very unconventional, because my father had some arrangement already lined up by his parents.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so you can imagine that these gusto that my grandfather had when he told them that I've already married, and I've married a woman from Spain.
So did it, so they couldn't take it back.
Oh, it was. They couldn't take it back. So it was a couple of years of.
That's another one, isn't it?
Yes, again, very unconventional, very unconventional, and then it was very, very brave of my mother, because she moved to Pakistan in 1954. That would have been.
Oh wow!
So when if you said Pakistan, people would look and say, "Ke Pakistan? Where is that?"
So of
course,
it's only just been formed.
despite all the openness, my mother did not dare to tell her parents for quite a while that she had met this Pakistani officer, and that, of course, so they cooked all this plan and presented it like a done deal to each other's parents and said,
Oh,
"We're
wow.
married, and and this is it." So they took a huge step in either direction. Across all sorts of cultural and geographical boundaries and social boundaries, and you name it. So they
How long,
kind of like blew the whole thing apart.
yeah, how long did your mother live in Lahore?
Well, she lived in Pakistan for until 1970 that we moved to Spain.
Wow. And
So
then,
at that time, she actually came back to Madrid because my elder brother, her first child, was going to be born, and she wanted it to be. So Yusuf is born in Madrid, my brother.
yeah.
I'm born in Lahore. Samina is born in Karachi, and our younger sister Ruby is born in Ankara, in Turkey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but during all this time, my mother became a Pakistani.
She did?
And oh yes, she was, because for two reasons. One, because she'd married a Pakistani, and
Yeah.
secondly, because at that time in Spain, if a Spanish woman married a foreigner, she lost her Spanish nationality.
Oh my goodness.
She was like,
okay. Right. Oh
"Here's
my
your
goodness. I
passport,
didn't know
bye
that.
bye."
Thank
Yeah, it
goodness
was like,
her in then.
yes. So it was a very huge step for both of them, but
Wow.
they did not doubt. They never doubted that that's what they were going to do, and that's what they did. And
Being true to yourself.
yeah,
Being true to yourself is another mindset thing.
yeah. So, and this is what we've had as an example in our, so well, you do whatever you want, because no one's going to tell you can't do that, because you're just going to turn around to them and say, "Hey, look here, look, this is what you did." So there are no rules in that sense, and it gives you a certain freedom to make your own choice in a different manner.
Yeah, and hearing those stories as you grow up. So we're going to have a final break, and then we are going to Bustamante Productions, and I will open
promotions. Yeah, let's do that.
I've been saying productions all, and I've
It's
written
okay.
it. I think
Just say Bustamante. Yeah, it's fine.
I know that. Right, final break, and then we're going to just Bustamante. There you go.
Let's talk about that.
Bustamante's delicious stuff.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us here 24 hours and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio. Relax Radio.
Right, we're going to do that lateral thing again now. This is one of
lovely. I wonder who made that.
who made that. So Asif is now in Sweden, living in Sweden, and the paella, in case anybody doesn't know, is one of the Spanish national dishes. It's probably the most famous Spanish national dish. There's more than one. How did this come about?
Well, actually, when I think about it, I have to blame my father more than my mother, because my mother's good at cooking, but when she saw the Apollo 11 or the Apollo program, she was so excited, because she said, "Oh, I really look forward to the day those pills come out in the market, and I can just put one of those in each one of you guys' mouth and just send you off to school." That was her dream scenario, like pop a pill, and it would contain all the vitamins and all the nutrition that the kids needed without having to cook. Whereas my father could spend days, and that comes again from his parents and his father. He could spend days planning a meal or a dish, and he'd go and buy stuff in specialized shops and that sort of thing. So that sort of comes from his side of the family, the interest for good food, and the considering, like, okay, if I want something good, I have to really make the effort to make it myself. because I ain't going to be getting it otherwise. So when we moved to Spain,
That is
he was,
Asif himself.
yeah,
Look at
thanks.
that with that. I can't find the original picture, but go on. Yes.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. I'll take it
So
off now.
when we moved to Spain, he'd like put in a lot of effort and I don't know, Caroline, if we were ever invited to a bowl curry, because they became famous in Madrid among
Oh
all my friends.
no, I never had
Yes,
one. Oh wow.
yeah, and they all look forward to my father preparing a curry, all my schoolmates and classmates, and it was called a bowl curry because
Oh wow.
he would really enjoy this, having all my mates over and they'd enjoy that. So he could spend hours and days planning a bowl curry, and it would it would have to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect, the rice and so on. So this sort of interest comes from his side of the family actually, but what happened then is that, well, we moved to Sweden. I was working, Monica was working, kids were going to school. There was not so much focus on the food side of things, except when we went to Spain, and it was like very enjoyable going out and having tapas and all that. But I'd make the odd paella now and again, of course, out here in the garden, and invite friends and so on. And then I started this food import company, and I'll tell you why I did that. It wasn't just because I like food, but
That one.
yeah,
Promotions.
promotion, and that was also a little bit of serendipity involved there, with Ruby meeting some olive oil producer who Yusuf also happened to know, who I met afterwards. But anyhow, this guy asked me, "Hey, would you happen to know someone who can make a paella on a party? My wife's going to have I'm going to have a party for my wife, and I would like to have a paella." And I said, "Well, come on, I'll make it for you." "What? Could you do that?" "Oh, well, yes, of course. Why not?" "Now it's going to be like 40 people." So I said, "Okay, I'll have to make a big paella." So I improvised. To make a long story short,
Here we go. A big paella.
you make a big paella. That wasn't at that party, but anyhow, it's a similar thing. And people are asking for your card, and so, "Well, do you have a card? Because I'm going to have a summer garden party and this," and then it just doesn't stop, because every time you do a paella party, there's like, out of the 40, 50 people, there'll be 3, 4 potential guests, and this is really word of mouth, because they're trying your paella and saying, "Wow, this was really good stuff. Can't you come to my party next whatever." So the whole thing just sort of snowballed from there. But I had started the yeah, and so now I'm known as a paella man. I mean, that's something I do, and people call me long in advance, and they book a paella. I make I actually make the paella at home. I don't have a catering company, because I go to your house, however many guests you're going to have, and I make the paella there in your house in the garden as part of the. And actually, people want you to do that because they think it's so quaint and cool. And I think there's a little bit of anthropological connection there as well, when a lot of people are sharing the same dish, not just the same food on each dish, but actually you see that it's coming from the same big dish. And you've seen this maybe in many other cultures, that when you share food, there's a special connection that is created between people, that is a little bit different than just going to a restaurant or something. Inviting people to eat at home and preparing food for them has a special significance in all cultures, and I don't think it's recognized so much, but I think if you think about it, it's quite important and significant, because you are opening up your home and making a special effort to prepare a very particular dish, whatever it may be, whether it's a paella, palau, whatever you want to do, but you are making a dish. There's a consciousness behind that says that this is for you, my dear guest, and there has to be a sign of appreciation. So that connection, I don't think we appreciate too much today.
Well, I've actually added something onto my mindset list for you, which we'll review when it gets to 16, 15, 59, 7, whatever, in 4 minutes time, I'm generating a list. I'm adding generosity on that list, generosity of spirit. There's something about it that I'm getting that. Well,
you always get back more than what you give. Really, that's, I think, an age-old rule.
But that it's expansiveness. That's it. Actually, expansiveness. Expansiveness is key to. I should actually I could write a book from all these chats that I'm having with people.
Yes, actually, the reason I started the company, apart from the interest for good food and the fact that we established a relationship, and I'll do a ad break here for my good friend Rafael Alonso, who makes Oro del Desierto in Almería, Tabernas. If you ever visit, go there. Fantastic olive oil, fantastic restaurant, fantastic people. So here goes.
I'm guessing. Is there something about him on Instagram?
Oh yeah, the olive oil that I import.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Share. I think if I can share my screen, and my plan was, I don't know if it's going to work. My plan is to. Well, I don't mind the entire screen up. Let me see if I can actually now pull up Instagram. Can you see Instagram there?
Yeah, I see Instagram, yeah.
Okay, and then I was going to go, tell me when to stop. Do you want to comment on anything? Oro del Desierto, the gold of the desert.
You will see the olive oil there, yes. That's one of my main products that I import. And
lots of olive oil there.
Yeah, a lot of that. Most of my business is olive oil, and then there's a lot of other stuff as well, tuna fish, and a lot of other stuff. And I always establish good relationship with people in the restaurant world who also put a lot of effort and thinking into what they're serving.
There's Monica there.
There's Monica. We're at the food fair there, probably.
Yeah.
And Danielle and the family helped me out.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I started the company. There we might even be in South Africa. There in the picture beside this one. I started the company because I thought it was a good idea to have a business together with my daughters. Danielle was small at the time, and that has to do with how the world moves today. You can't be too loyal to some big multinational company who's quite appreciative of you while you're doing what you're supposed to be doing for them. But once they're ready with you, then they can replace you. Whereas you have to be able to create your own backpack of competence and knowledge and goodies that you can then trade, sometimes as an employee and sometimes as a subcontractor, sometimes as a consultant, but you should feel that you own that. And I thought it would be interesting for my daughters to have some experience in running a company, or basically understanding how commerce and trade works, how business works. Whatever you do in life, whether it's maths or dancing or music or whatever you may end up doing.
Or
language, whatever, you still need to have that sort of ability to market yourself, sell yourself.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And the only one who's going to do that. Yeah. So that was part of the project, was to kind of like get that into the stream of their knowledge.
Okay, so the School of Life as well is another thing. So it is now 16:59. We've got 1 minute left, so I'm going to go through the list. So some is too sketchy. Continuing to learn, continuous learning, being considerate and respectful of other cultures, of just people in general, can-do attitude, willing to take risks and problem solving along the way, being true to yourself and to your convictions, having generosity of spirit, expansiveness, and School of Life. That life is a school, that it's a constantly learning journey, and making sure that your children are providing that for your children as well. So those are the conclusions I've got there, and it's now 5 o'clock, so I'm going to have to say goodbye. This has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much, Asif. It was definitely living up to my expectations there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I was very nervous worried. I didn't know what you were going to. Thank you,
Having a
Caroline.
chat. Thank you. I hope
Thank
to
you.
have you again when I've got a bigger audience.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.